we have some multiple Steelers updates as this has some major implications on our future. Former Steelers legend has broke his silence on the quarterback controversy, and our head coach Mike Tomlin has made some comments on the team's future and where they will decide to go at the quarterback position, in free agency, and in the draft. My name is Peyton Kleppe, and today is this episode of Steelers Digest. Before we get into the news, you guys are not currently subscribed already, just click that subscribe button down below. Only 9% of our current viewers are actually currently subscribed. So if you click that subscribe button, we're going to get you guys the latest Steelers news every single day. Let's get right into the latest news. We got a big topic to talk about. So head coach Mike Tomlin broke his silence the past couple days as he gets ready to get ready for the draft. You know, him and Omar have had some videos come out in the last couple days, just giving their talk and giving their spiel on the current situation of the Steelers. Obviously, we still do not have a number one quarterback set in stone. We did sign Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson earlier on in the offseason, but we're still looking to find our number one quarterback. A guy that has been rumored to the Pittsburgh Steelers the past 3 weeks has been Aaron Rodgers. And, you know, Mike Tomlin broke his silence on the Aaron Rodgers situation. According to Brooke Pryor, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not getting off the quarterback carousel anytime soon. Amid the public courtship of quarterback Aaron Rodgers, head coach Mike Tomlin said Sunday the team is examining all of its options at the quarterback room to add who they want to get for the future. You know, Mike Tomlin did say we're still evaluating the acquisition of a guy at the position, whether it's in free agency and or in the draft. So we're doing our due diligence, communicating with some free agents. Also, we're preparing for the draft, Tomlin said from the NFL's annual league meeting in his first public comments since a season-ending news conference in January, where he did talk after losing to the Baltimore Ravens. It was a tough game. Obviously, he was not very optimistic, but it's great to hear from our head coach now and hear about his thoughts on the future. And he sounded very good. He sounded like he's not really worried about the quarterback position, and he's just ready to start with a new quarterback and get this thing going, get ready for the next season. You know, Tomlin also said there really wasn't an internal deadline for the quarterback position and to resolve the situation with Aaron Rodgers, obviously, because Rodgers has not made any comments since the Steelers have made an offer to him. And we've just been playing the waiting game with Rodgers, just whether to see he decides to sign in Pittsburgh or he decides to retire or go anywhere else. But Tomlin did say, you know, not to my knowledge, I don't know if we've approached it from a deadline perspective. Certainly, as I mentioned, you'd like to have some settled circumstances, but deadlines often don't bring that to a head. And, you know, the Steelers coach also added that he didn't ask Aaron Rodgers about his timeline when Aaron Rodgers did visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers about a week ago. You know, he just said he really wanted to spend some more time just getting to know him and get him to know him as a person. Also, what he values as a player and a man and what he might be looking for his next stop, Tomlin did state. And I think that's a big thing to say, and you know, just put less pressure on Aaron and just stay open to figure out what he wants to do with his future. Obviously, this will be Aaron Rodgers, probably his last decision for football. He wants to make sure he found the right home. I think he did in Pittsburgh, but, you know, I believe he's still also leaving the door open for the Minnesota Vikings to see whether or not they want to swoop in and sign him. Earlier on this offseason, they did come out and say that they really aren't interested in Rodgers, and they do probably want to roll with J.J. McCarthy, who did get injured last year in his rookie season, but they're probably looking to have him as their starter for next year. So the Vikings are probably pretty much out on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, but they never officially said they were out. They really just stayed pretty neutral throughout this whole process. So we'll have to wait and see. Big Ben did make some comments on that situation on his podcast, and, you know, but before we get into that, Tomlin, he did talk about what they would do in the quarterback room if they don't sign Rodgers, and he did say, you know, if for a potential plan B, I don't know if we're identifying anything as a plan A, plan B, or plan C. We're simply just looking at the field of available people, whether it's free agency or the draft, and making decisions and gathering information accordingly. He also said that he really hasn't thought a lot about settling the Rodgers situation before the draft, and I think that's a smart thing to say because the quarterback position in the draft The Steelers could look to capitalize in the draft. Some guys that we've been linked to is Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart. Those guys I'd love to have in Pittsburgh, but it really depends where they are and where they go in the draft. But furthermore, the Steelers have also traded for DK Metcalf on the eve of negotiating period and also signed Darius Slay and running back Kenneth Gainwell. So they're probably looking to add some more pieces before the draft starts, but we'll have to wait and see. But Tomlin and Rodgers have been friends for a lot of years. Rodgers has always said that he has a lot of respect for Tomlin. So I really hope that these two can work together for possibly Tomlin's last year in Pittsburgh and possibly Rodgers' last year as an NFL player. This could be a huge change of the guard for the Pittsburgh Steelers if these two do team up. These guys are probably the last two guys from the 2010 era in the NFL still playing. You could also talk about Matthew Stafford, but Aaron Rodgers is really one of the last guys from the 2010s that is still playing in the league, and head coach Mike Tomlin is one of those last head coaches amongst John Harbaugh, Andy Reid. But it would be cool to see these two team up and see what their football minds could do together. But Aaron Rodgers and Big Ben have also been friends throughout their career, and Big Ben gave his thought on the Aaron Rodgers situation on his podcast, Footballin' with Big Ben Roethlisberger. The future Hall of Fame quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, elaborated on the never-ending Rodgers to Pittsburgh rumors on his podcast, Footballin' with Ben. He said he thinks Aaron Rodgers is still holding out for Minnesota, which is why he hasn't signed with the Steelers. Why would you go out and throw with a guy like TK and work out with him to blast to everybody and say that I'm throwing to these guys, but you still won't sign? I think that's a great point that Ben Roethlisberger has brought up. There really hasn't been a lot of reporters and media people who have talked about that situation and how Aaron Rodgers still is holding on to that pipe dream that the Minnesota Vikings will sign him and he's going to have that career-ending situation like Brett Favre. But obviously, like I said, the Vikings are not really interested in Aaron Rodgers. It's really more of a pipe dream of his. So, Rodgers is probably looking to just play in Pittsburgh at this rate. I mean, hey, if he does want to wait out, who cares? Vikings aren't going to sign him. They're going to roll with J.J. McCarthy, and his only option is going to be with our Pittsburgh Steelers. But Ben Roethlisberger also added that Rodgers also may see the Minnesota Vikings as a more complete team and a perfect scenario for the 41-year-old quarterback chasing his second Super Bowl ring. That's kind of a debatable thing to say. Obviously, the Vikings last year, they did have a great season, and they do have some great wide receivers. But hey, we got two great wide receivers. We got just as good, if not better, of a defense. We've got a better head coach. We've got a better running back. I think so. Aaron Jones is great, but he's 30. He's 30-something. I don't think he's going to have a great follow-up season next year. I think Jaylen Warren will probably have a better season than him or whoever we bring in. I just believe the Steelers are more complete than the Minnesota Vikings. Also, the Minnesota Vikings are 0-4 in the Super Bowl, 0-4, 0 Super Bowls. Who's got 6? The Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Aaron Rodgers, if you're watching, if you can hear me, just get that contract done and sign. And let's get this thing rolling. That is all I have for you guys on today's episode of Steelers Digest. If you guys are not currently subscribed already, click that subscribe button. Thanks again. Here we go, Steelers.